Welcome to The Chaos Antidote, a leadership podcast hosted by Jason E. Neal, author of Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. Through these episodes, we will be exploring real-world problems and applying solutions that reduce your chaos and help you to become accidentally aligned. Hi, everyone. Jason E. Neal, author of the book Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. If you haven't picked this book up, I encourage you to go to Amazon today, pick it up. I have it on paperback, hard copy. You can now get it on Audible, which is really nice. So if you're working in the shop or you're traveling between plants or in your vehicle, you can listen to it. It's a really good resource. I encourage you to pick it up. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what I will call the hero trap. So, in businesses, we have folks. Everybody knows there's folks that get things done, right? We can go out there, and if something's going really, really bad, people will step in and they'll take care of it. And it just kind of disappears, right? I've had leaders talk to me sometimes, and they'll say, "Can you just go wave that magic wand like you did before and make this all disappear?" So certainly when I'm speaking about this, I'm not pointing my finger and saying, "Oh, those people that do this, or these people that create these hero traps are terrible people." I have certainly created those traps and have existed in those traps in my career more times than I would like to admit. So starting with that and that transparency, let's jump into this a little bit. So many years ago, there was a man. His name was McGregor, and he kind of came up with this idea. It was called Theory X and Theory Y, forms of leadership or forms of management. And basically, this is how it worked. If you believe that that employees follow Theory X, then they have to be constantly pushed and threatened and coerced, or on the flip side of that coin, rewarded all the time, encouraged, given incentives to perform a good day's work. And if you were a Theory Y believer, you would believe that people, they just kind of they wanted to have responsibility. Work for them was as normal as anything else, right? That is done, like play or eating or doing anything else. And we just need to build systems so that they can reveal this desire to do better and this desire to work. So when I think about this, how does this all come together? And what does this have to do with anything? And why are we spending our time talking about it today? That's a great question. So when I was in operations for many years, we were very much Theory X. And we believed that people needed constantly to be pushed, to be nudged, that they need to be rewarded, coerced. And then we spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources doing these types of things. I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story. When we were on the assembly line and I was running the line there, we were always behind. Always. And for many, at least over a year, right? So every day I would come in, it was always behind. We were never ahead. And as I began to go into this, I started to learn things. So if I needed to ship an engine, and let's say it needed to go really fast, I learned shortcuts around the system. So I know if I call this person on the phone and I say these words and I say it in this way, then that they'll schedule me a truck or they'll schedule me a plane. And if I need to get a plane scheduled, these are the people that I call. I have to have it done by this time, and I can fly that engine in and ultimately be the hero, right? And when people look at this leadership, when I say people, when leadership looks at this, they say, wow, that guy really gets things done. And he knows how to do everything. And is that bad? No, certainly no. It's not a bad thing to have experienced people who understand the supply chain and know how to get things done. But the reason that it wasn't good is because what we were building a system in which people say, I know that the person who will save us will arrive shortly, and it isn't me. And we were not creating robust systems and standards, so people weren't following them. They didn't feel that accountability and that ownership to say, hey, maybe we should be doing this a better way, or creating a standard so that we can do this, so that we don't need a hero to come in all the time and save this, right? Likewise, when we do have heroes, and I had many on my team, it wasn't just me where I was learning these, expediting routes and things, but there were many people on my team and they were really good at it. And I could call them and I know that they were just going to take care of it. But what was happening is we were starting to build a culture that rewarded people on not following the standards. Who got promoted? Well, the people who get things done. If we needed to ship 3 engines and somebody says, "Hey, I could ship those engines for you," right? Then they come in and they do the magic, and all of a sudden we ship the engine. So when it comes review time, those are the conversations that are happening. Who didn't get promoted? The people who were working on standards, the people that were trying to create stability in the line. And you'll remember I spoke a different episode, and it was on tropism, right? Where a plant will begin to move towards a stimulus. And that's what happened. We built a culture that moved towards a stimulus. So we said, everybody looked and they said, hey, when that happens, we see that those are the people that are getting promoted. Those are the people that are getting better opportunities and they're getting recognized. So in order for me to be good at my job and to move up and to be recognized, then I must also do those things. But then on the other hand, what we were telling them is we were treating them as theory Y people who had come to work and had a desire to do well and create value for their family and their livelihood, and that this was important to them. And we were selling them this idea of theory Y, but we were treating them like theory X. And here's the piece about this, right? If you have theory X, you can look and say, well, like, why does it even matter if I have X or Y? Because hero culture is the symptom. That's what you'll find. If you go in and you look, because I don't believe people are inherently lazy. I really don't. I've worked with some people and there's certainly, you'll have your 5% on either side of the curve that are extremely motivated and then far less motivated. You'll have that, right? But I haven't found that people are inherently lazy. If we create systems to where people can succeed and we can inspire them and show them a goal and say, hey, we can be better than we were yesterday, and tomorrow can be better than today. And we create this vision and we listen to people and respond and solve problems and create standards and create better standards. I have found that people follow. So, but we were selling them these two ideas. We were rewarding secretly this theory X that people were needed constant reinforcement and everything. But then we were telling them, hey, we want you to be self-motivated. We want you to create better processes and standards, and it was very, very confusing. So when I think about this, Kingman's formula, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. And when I think about this, and what does it have to do with what we've already talked about? When we create or reward or build theory X cultures where we believe that people must constantly be pushed and driven and incentivized, and we look at management by results and we say, this is what we want to get. Did we ship 9? And who cares how we did it, but we got 9. And so that's a good thing. And we ask these questions, right? We are building something that goes against stability. Now, here's the piece. Remember, we had talked about Kingman's formula. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that or listen to that episode. It will bring this together for you. But where we start to increase our utilization, where we start to speed up, and we don't deal with our variation, we will actually slow down. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's true. If you think about how the math works, right? It's your utilization over 1 minus utilization. So if I have a 80% utilization, right, then it's 1 minus 80, so it's 20. 8 over 2 is 4. So I will have 4 times my variation in that scenario. But if I raise my utilization to 90%, it'll be 90 over, right, 1 minus 9, which is 10, right? So 9 over 1, so I get 9. So now I went up 10%, but I went from 4 to 9 multiplied by my variation. So a 10% increase in utilization has now exponentially increased my lead time, my waiting time, my process. And when we build these cultures and we say, hey, we need a hero, here's what you're doing. I know it sounds bizarre, but you're driving your utilization through the roof, and your variation is also going through the roof because you're not following standards. We're pushing the system to work around standards to do what? To move faster. And as odd as it seems, and I know I've lived in this business for a long time. I've been uh, over 20 years. Let's just say 25, but somewhere around in that realm of doing this kind of work. And it seems faster in the moment when all the pressure's on and they're saying, hey, we need to ship this many engines this week and we have half of that, right? And there's a temptation there to say, well, I can get the rest of them. I can just blow these standards out of the water and do whatever I want. But we need to be very careful because the path to sustainable utilization is to deal with variation. And that's where this hero culture actually works against us. So when I say all this and I talk about it, where do we fall into the trap? Where does it happen? So I'm going through life, I'm trying to do a good job. Where do I fall into the trap? It comes from pressure. It comes from systems pressure. So we just talked about it, right? If I need to ship 10 a week, and let's say I'm shipping 8 a week, so I'm missing 2 every week. So every week I'm adding 2 after a month, I'm getting some significant backlog. The customer is trying to install whatever it is that I'm shipping or trying to use it, and they can't. So the backlog is growing. And this is where leadership begins to apply the pressure. They'll say, hey, not only are we missing our targets, but we're getting so far away. If we can't recover in 10 a week, if we can't do 10 a week, then how in the world are we ever going to create the capacity to do 10 a week and to eat this backlog away that you're creating? And that's a valid question. It's a fair question. We do this by creating capacity and process in our processes so that we can sustain, right? I've seen a lot of businesses work backwards from this. When we're trying to create capacity, we'll take the capacity and we begin to work backwards. But you need to do that, right? Because it's built on tact and we build that on customer demand. But our line is as it is, right? So it will reveal to us if we look at it and say, where are the issues? What are the things that we need to change? And where do we need to apply standards? And we know that where we apply a standard, we'll get somewhere between a 20 and 50% productivity bump, right? Just from having a standard and all 3 components of it being worked. Standard exists, standard is followed, and standard is capable. Where you apply those 3, you will get very nice productivity bumps. I've seen that to be between 20 and 50% in my career, and it follows exactly what we're talking about with Kingman's formula and how that utilization and variation works. The hero culture works against that, and it's really hard to see because when this pressure hits, that's where the trap is. We'll say, without me pushing, nothing gets done. And I've heard this so many times. If I need to do something, I'll just go down and do it myself, right? And, something that Jim Womack said, he said, we need less heroes or fewer heroes and more farmers. And when I think about that, it's the people that are cultivating the soil and they're preparing the ground for planting. They're the people that are coming by and they're watering. They're the people that are coming by and pulling the weeds, right? And they're just doing it and it's happening. And when we have this Theory X hero culture, and we're seeing the symptom of hero culture coming out, revealing that Theory X understanding of our business or our operations, those people are unseen. They're invisible. And you'll have some good people that will say, I'm going to do it anyway because I know it's right. And it's wonderful that you have those people, but a lot of people are going to get frustrated. They're going to say, I'm just not going to do that. That's a waste of time. As lean leaders and lean practitioners, we encourage people to identify waste and to remove it. So if I put them in a system and I say, hey, I want you to do this and I want you to go out and farm and cultivate and help our processes and our standards grow, and they do that, and I don't see them and they become invisible, they will one day wake up and they'll say, because they are smart, they'll say, that's not a very good use of my time. That's not a very good investment of my time. So I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. I'm going to go do something else. And they will. And you know what they'll do? They will move towards hero culture. They'll say every time that this person or these people do something, it's seen, and I want to be like them. So I'm going to start doing what they're doing because leadership seems to respond to that. And this is how leadership sets the thermostat, if you will, for a business. This is why when I talk so much about leadership, I don't talk a lot about our workforce and what they need to change. I do talk about what leadership needs to change. It's not because it's a one-sided coin. It's not because leadership is at fault for everything. By no means is that what it is. Is that what I'm saying? The problem is leadership sets the thermostat. So if I come in my house and it's cold, it's my home. I set the thermostat. I chose that temperature, and if I want to change it, I can. But I don't let just anybody touch my thermostat, right? There's a list of people that are able to do that. And it's the same in our shop and our operations. A lot of our people don't even have the authority to 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 do to change things, right? They can change small things but not to set the temperature, not to change the temperature. That comes from leadership. So as leaders, these are the questions that I ask. What are we rewarding, right? How do we break it? How do we break this? So let's say that you're in this and you're like, yeah, this is great. I agree with you. That's where we are. I see this. I live this. I know that my heroes actually are leaving. They're getting frustrated. They're burnt out. They're never home with their family. We call them after hours. They work late. They get told off all the time, and we reward them well, but they're really frustrated. But I don't really know what to do about that. Well, there's a couple things you can do. One, stabilize first. Stabilize, then standardize. We don't want to standardize instability. You can, but Shigeo Shingo said this. He said, "It's if you have your planning and your control, if your planning is 50% and your control is 100%, your output to production will actually still be 50%. And it's planning and control. So if you spend more time in planning, you can spend less effort on control. If you spend less time in planning, you will spend more time on control. So when you think about your business and your operation as you're going through this, look at the places where you've planned well. You should be controlling that less or be able to control that less. And look at the places where you planned less. You're probably going to be controlling that a lot more. That's going to require more leadership because leadership is generally the one that controls a process where whereas the planning is done up front and it's ahead of the curve. So start there, stabilize, and then make your process visible. How do people know when there's a defect? How do they see it from 10 feet away? How can they tell in 10 seconds something's wrong, something's right? Do you have that visual management in place? Do people know it, right? And if you have it and you're seeing it, what are you doing about it? That's culture, right? So we have our tools and we have our culture. And the tools can reveal issues. The culture determines what we're going to do with them when we reveal it. Redefine recognition. What do we reward? If we have a person and we have standards and we're trying to ship something, a product, and we have a quality policy, and this is in my book, you can read. There's quite a bit written on this in the section on quality. But if we have a quality system and someone says that's going to take for us to do all that correctly, that's going to take 3 days. I can ship this engine on day one, and then I can work that on the back end. That's fine if that follows your procedures. That's fine if you have a standard for that. But if you don't, and then we say, wow, that's wonderful. We did that 7 times this week and we shipped more engines because we're expediting and going around our quality system or we're going around our planning, and we reward these people for doing it. Everybody sees that. It doesn't matter what you have hanging on your wall, what kind of posters you have hanging on your wall. It doesn't matter. They will see that. They'll say, when those people went around our quality system or went around our standards, they were rewarded. So if that's truly the way you want to run your business and you have a 3-day turnaround time to follow your system and you need it to be one, then apply Kaizen, right? Apply continuous improvement there and say, we need to get that 3-day process to one and come out with a standard that works for everybody and pull in your stakeholders and work that and close that gap. But when you reward going around it and you're not investing the time to change it, you build culture and people see it And when people get comfortable circumventing your processes, they will, and they'll do it more, and it will become common. And then when something bad happens, you're going to be facing a culture issue. You're going to come back and say, well, why in the world would you do this? Or why would you not follow the procedure? Well, I mean, we're not going to say it, but look, we never follow the procedure, right? And that's the culture we don't want to create. We want to build that stability, make problems visible, and then we want to align our recognition with that, right? We want to say, that's wonderful that you did that. That's wonderful that you expedited this engine. But how do we next time not do that? Let's apply root cause corrective action to why we had to do it this way and find out what's missing in our standard and our process so that we can work towards not doing this in the future. And then how do we take our stakeholders and apply people and apply the team so that we don't have to do this in the future, and we can get them engaged so that we have more farmers, more people that are watering the ground and tending to the plants that we're trying to grow. Shift from policing to coaching. As leaders, when we go down to the shop floor, are we the police? Is that what we do? Because I see that sometimes. People will go through and they know everything that's wrong. They know everything that's wrong. And they don't know anything that's right. They don't ask. They don't talk to their people. They don't listen to their people. They're just like, this shouldn't be here. That shouldn't be there. And maybe that's correct. And maybe that's how we reinforce standards. But we should be listening. I have a queue there, and there should be 4, and there's 7. Why are there 7? Well, because we had this situation. Tell me more about that. And why did we not stop building at 4? And what would we do in the future to stop building at 4? And if we did stop building at 4, what would happen? Is 4 the right number, right? It's very different. We're moving from policing to coaching. And now I am helping the people that understand the work understand how to do it better. I'm listening to them, I'm learning from them, and I'm applying my expertise so that I can help, and I'm listening to their expertise so that we can be partners in what we're doing. And now we're moving from that X to Y, because now I'm not treating them like someone who has to constantly be pushed and constantly be threatened or me write tickets. Now I'm telling them we are partners in this. And because we're partners in this, I want you to be successful. I believe you want to be successful. I want to be successful. I believe you want me to be successful, right? So we're working through this. Apply a personal leadership audit to yourself. Take a hard look at yourself. Take a hard look at myself. I do this all the time. Track every time for 1 week, carry a little notebook. Track every time you solve a problem yourself without coaching. Just put a little tick mark, put a number, however you want to do it, put a dot. It doesn't matter. But put it in your note. You can even draw a little bar chart, right? And put coaching, solving, and then just put an X and go upward and count it. Look at your Pareto. If you're leaning way too far in doing it yourself and not coaching, you need to apply root cause problem solving there. You need to look and say, why is it that when I approach my people and when I approach my line, I try to solve problems for them? Why is it that I do not trust them? What things are they missing? What things would they need to be able to do what I'm doing? And why do I feel compelled to do it myself, right? Because now we will start moving into a culture of growth, and that's going to be awesome. Encouragement rituals. If you have someone and they're moving from theory X to theory Y, so they're saying, I'm no longer going to be the hero, I'm going to try to stabilize and standardize. And when people need me, I'll jump back and forth, right? I'll do that, certainly. My sensei said it to me like this: delivery today, pace or transformation tomorrow. So he said, you don't want to turn the hero switch off. You don't want to just come into a line, and that's wisdom, right? That's just years of doing this, that we know these things. And there's a lot of people who would say, oh no, you do want to do, well, that's fine. That may be your method and your brand. I have not found that to be true. I've found that where a business operates in complete chaos and instability, and heroes solve everything, and you don't want to turn that off immediately, because as you build this stability, as you build these standards, there's going to be a lot of that needed. When it happens, what I recommend is that you apply root cause problem solving and figure out why. Why did we need them to do that this time? Why did we need them to do that 17 times this month? And start to look at your cost. Start to look at your cost, because here's what I found. when I was running operations and we were behind and I'd miss a shipment, the sky was the limit on what I would be willing to pay for, right? If I needed a shipment, I paid insane amounts of money. I won't even tell you how much it was, but it would blow your mind how much to expedite a product to an angry customer, right? I mean, just insane. So when I tell my customers or my line or my freight forwarders or anybody else that I am going to start creating standards and I'm going to do less firefighting and less hero culture, right? Here's what they hear. They're going to hear that's less money. That's a bad idea because we're making an absolute fortune off of their instability and their inability to manage their business effectively. And if they create standards, we're going to lose a ton of money because they need us all the time and we're eating them alive. So there's definitely a cultural element as you create this stability that people won't all like it. Not everybody's going to line up. A lot of your workers, they get paid in overtime, right? Because what you could have shipped between Monday and Friday, you don't. You ship it on Saturday and Sunday, and that's where your heroes engage on the weekends, and they come in and they work crazy hours, and as long as they get it out by Sunday, right? But that's overtime, and people make a lot of money. So our waste creates a very lucrative lifestyle for people. And as you go to change this culture, you have to realize that, right? That's a cultural issue because what they will hear is I'm saying I want you to create stability and standards, but what they hear is you want to take money from me. You want to change my lifestyle. You want to decrease the way that I provide for my family or my bonus this year. And certainly that's not the case. We want to create stability across the entire system so that everyone is served and the customer is served, and that we are able to, be great stewards to our community and everything else. So when I bring this, think about it and ask yourself, do some self-assessment, right? This week, if you catch yourself or somebody else operating in theory X assumptions and redirect it into theory Y building, system building, what are you going to do? Do you pass over it? Do you acknowledge it? Do you walk away? Do you say we're just going to go back the way it was? When you do have heroes that come in and save the day and they do firefighting, it's great to acknowledge them. I mean, don't turn a blind eye to them. They're working very hard. They're doing a good job. But what else happened that was stability? What else happened that week that built stability? And did we recognize it? Do people know it? Right? Are we telling them? I don't know. These are questions you're going to have to ask for yourself. But something to think about this week. This is what I'd recommend. As you walk away from this today, ask the question. Get you a little piece of paper. Write it down. Start to do some self-assessments. Talk to your people. Get some feedback. Start to learn to coach. Ask questions. Don't try to have all the answers, right? There's steps, and there's steps. There's steps towards perfection. We're not going to get there, but it's this idea of continuous improvement, continuously moving towards a better culture. It is a balance. I try very hard not to fall all the way towards the human side where it's like everything we do is completely to make people happy all the time. I don't even think we have the power to do that. And likewise, I try not to fall too hard towards the tool side and say it's all about the tools. It's certainly not. But I do believe that there's a balance. And I do see it. It's usually on one end of the spectrum more than in the middle. But there is a balance there. So how do we assess ourselves and look and talk with our teams and ask the question, hey, do we have balance or are we out of balance? And if so, what are we going to do about it, right? Pick up a copy of my book. Follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you want to connect with me. And let's make tomorrow better than today. Thank you.